The Battle of the Riachuelo was a naval battle and a key point in the Paraguayan War. By late 1864, Paraguay had scored a series of victories in the war. On June 11, 1865, however, its naval defeat by Brazil on the Parana River began to turn the tide in favor of the Allies. The battle plan. The Paraguayan fleet was a fraction of the size of Brazil's, even before the battle. It arrived in Humarita on the morning of June 9. Paraguayan President Francisco Solano López prepared to attack at Riachuelo the ships supporting Allied land troops. 9 ships and 7 cannon-carrying barges, totaling 45 guns, plus 22 guns and 2 Congreve rocket batteries from shore troops, attacked the Brazilian squadron, totaling 58 guns. Paraguay planned to attack before sunrise since most Brazilian troops would leave the steamers in order to sleep on land, leaving thus very few men to guard and handle their fleet. The original plan had been that, under the cover of the night, the Paraguayan steamers would approach the docked Brazilian ones and board them. No confrontation other than the one carried out by the boarding party was planned, and the Paraguayan steamers were only there to provide cover from the inland forces. Description of battle. The Paraguayan fleet left Humarita on the night of June 10, 1865, headed to the port of Corrientes. López had given specific orders that they should approach stealthily the docked Brazilian steamers before sunrise and board them, thus leaving the ground Brazilian forces bereft of their navy early on during the war. For this, López sent 9 steamers: Tacuari, Iguare, Marqués de Olinda, Paraguari, Salto Guaira, Rio Apa, Waipara, Piraby Bay and Iberra, under the command of Captain Meza, who was aboard the Tacuari. However, some 2 leagues after leaving Humarita, upon reaching a point known as New Atapaitha, the engine of the Iberra broke down. After losing some hours in an attempt to fix it, it was decided to continue with only the remaining 8 steamers. The fleet arrived at Corrientes after sunrise. However, due to a dense fog, the plan was still executable since most, if not all, Brazilian forces were still on land. However, Captain Meza, not following López's orders, ordered that instead of approaching and boarding the docked steamer, the fleet was to continue down the river and fire at the camp and docked vessels as they passed by. This new course of action proved catastrophic. The Paraguayans passed in a line parallel to the Brazilian fleet and continued downstream. Upon Captain Meza's order, the entire fleet opened fire on the docked Brazilian steamers. The land troops hastily, upon realization that they were under attack, boarded their own ships and began returning fire. One of the Paraguayan steamers was hit in the boiler and one of the chatters was damaged as well. Once out of range, they turned upstream and anchored the chatters, forming a line in a very narrow part of the river. This was intended to trap the Brazilian fleet. Admiral Barroso noticed the Paraguayan tactic and turned down the stream to go after the Paraguayans. However, the Paraguayans started to fire from the shore into the lead ship, Belmont. The second ship in the line, Jequitinhonha, inadvertently turned upstream and was followed by the whole fleet, thus leaving Belmont alone to receive the full firepower of the Paraguayan fleet. It was soon put out of action. Jequitinhonha ran aground after the turn, becoming an easy prey for the Paraguayans. Admiral Barroso, on board of the steamer Amazonas, trying to avoid chaos and reorganize the Brazilian fleet, decided to lead the fleet down the stream again and fight the Paraguayans in order to prevent their escape, rather than save Amazonas. 4 steamers followed Amazonas. The Paraguayan admiral left his position and attacked the Brazilian line, sending 3 ships after Iraguari. Parnaíba remained near Jequitinhonha and was also attacked by 3 ships that were trying to board it. The Brazilian line was effectively cut in 2. Inside Parnaíba, a ferocious battle was taking place when the Marqués de Olinda joined the attackers. Barroso, at this time heading upstream, decided to turn the tide of the battle with a desperate measure. The first ship that faced Amazonas was the Paraguay, which was rammed and put out of action. Then he rammed Marquez de Olinda and Salto, and sank Chapter. At this point Paraguay was already out of action. Therefore, the Paraguayans tried to disengage. Beberibe and Araguari pursued the Paraguayans, heavily damaging Tacuary in the Piraby Bay, but the nightfall prevented the sinking of these ships. Jequitinhonha had to be put afire by Paraguay and Marquez de Olinda. In the end, the Paraguayans lost 4 steamers and all of the chassis, while the Brazilians only lost the Jequitinhonha. Coincidentally, the ship responsible for the confusion, aftermath and consequences of the battle. After the battle, the 8 remaining Brazilian steamers sailed downriver. President Lopez ordered Major José Maria Brugues with his batteries to quickly move inland to the south to wait for an attack the passing Brazilian fleet. So the fleet had to run the gauntlet. On August 12, Brugues attacked the fleet from the high cliffs at Cuevas. Every Brazilian ship was hit, and 21 dead. The Paraguay, which had been rammed by the Amazonas, was set ablaze by the Brazilians. However, the ship had a metal hull. Lopez would a few months later order for the Waipara to retrieve the hull, tow it to the Jujuy River and sink it there. Also, under orders from Lopez, a month after the battle, the Waipara would return to the scene again under the cover of the night and stealthily as to not alarm another Brazilian steamer which was in the location. Boarded the remains of the Jequitinhonha and stole one of its cannons. Mezzo was wounded by a gunshot to the chest during the battle. While he did leave the battle alive, he would die 8 days later from this wound while at the Humaita hospital. Lopez, who upon learning of Mezzo's death said, "Si no hubiera muerto con una bala, debía morir con cuatro," gave orders for no officers to attend at his burial. Manuel Trujillo, one of the Paraguayan soldiers to take part in the Riachuelo battle, recalls, "When we sailed downriver on full steam, passing all the Brazilian steamers on the morning of the 11th. We were all shocked since we knew that all we had to do was approach the steamers and all aboard." He also recalls that, during the battle, the land troops who had been taken on the steamers in order to board the Brazilian fleet were shouting, "Let's approach the steamers. We came in order to board them and not to be killed on deck." Barroso had turned the tables by creatively ramming the enemy ships. The Brazilian Navy won a decisive battle. General Robles was effectively stopped in Rio Santa Lucia. The threat to Argentina was neutralized. Order of battle.